All right, let's talk about something that is pretty much every homeowner's worst nightmare: water damage. Today, we're going to break down exactly what happens from that first moment of crisis all the way to a full recovery, using the same playbook the pros use. Let's dive in.
Just picture it for a second. You walk into your living room and splash. Your feet are soaked. Maybe a pipe burst, maybe a storm rolled through. That immediate sense of panic starts to set in. What do? Who do you even call? Well, believe it or not, what you do in the next few hours is absolutely critical. It can literally make all the difference.
And when I say critical, I really mean it. You're looking at a 24 to 48-hour window. Seriously, that is the single most important time frame in any water damage situation. It's the clock you're racing against before a problem that's, well, manageable, spirals into a massive, way more expensive crisis.
So why the big panic about 48 hours? It all comes down to one word: mold. You see, in really warm, humid places, think South Florida, mold spores can actually start to grow and colonize in just 24 hours. After 2 days, you could be looking at visible growth. And just like that, a water cleanup job becomes a much more complicated and costly mold remediation project. The clock starts ticking the second that water finds its way in.
So that brings us right into our first section: the race against water. And it really is a race because water is relentless. Every single minute counts. And look, this isn't some rare, bizarre event. It can happen to absolutely anyone at any time. Yeah, you've got the big dramatic stuff like a storm surge from a hurricane, but you also have the quiet, sneaky culprits, like a slow drip from your AC unit in the attic, or that old washing machine hose that just decides to give up. Any one of these can flood a part of your house in no time.
Let's get a little bit into the science here, because it's pretty interesting. In places where the humidity is already hanging out between, say, 70 and 90%, the air itself is already full of moisture. So when you add a sudden water leak into that mix, you've basically just created the perfect 5-star resort for mold. It's why a fast response isn't just a good idea, it is absolutely essential.
Okay, so knowing the stakes are that high, what do you actually do in those first few chaotic moments? Well, that leads us right to your immediate action plan.
All right, here's your playbook. Step 1, and this is a big one. If it is safe to do so, find the main water valve and shut it off. Step 2, start moving valuables. We're talking electronics, important papers, photos, furniture. Get them out of the water's path. Step 3, pull out your phone and start taking pictures and videos of everything. You can't have too much documentation for your insurance claim. And finally, Step 4, call a licensed restoration professional and do it right away. And I have to pause here for a huge safety warning. I know that first instinct might be to grab the shop vac from the garage and start sucking up water. Please do not do this. Mixing household electricity with standing water is incredibly dangerous. The pros use specialized, safe equipment for a reason. This is one of those times you do not want to DIY. Okay, so you've made the call. Once the professionals arrive, their job begins. And they're not just there for the water you can see. They're there to fight an invisible enemy. Their work is really broken down into 2 very distinct, very crucial phases.
And it's so important to understand the difference here. Mitigation is the emergency part. Think of it as a first responder stopping the bleeding. They're stabilizing the situation. Restoration, on the other hand, is the rebuilding phase. That's fixing everything that was damaged. You absolutely need both for a full recovery. So how do you know the people you called are actual pros? Well, you're going to want to look for this: IICRC certification. This is the nonprofit that basically writes the rule book for the entire industry worldwide. If a technician is certified, it means they've been trained to follow proven scientific procedures to get your home dry and safe. It's a big deal.
Now, one of the first things these pros do is classify the water itself, and it falls into 3 categories. Category 1, that's clean water, like from a broken supply line. But then you get to Category 3, or black water. This is seriously contaminated stuff from sources like a sewage backup or storm flood waters, and this classification changes the entire game. It determines what can be saved, what can't, and what kind of safety gear the crew has to wear.
So now let's get into the really fascinating part, the science of drying. Because getting rid of the puddles you can see on the floor, that's just step 1. The real fight is against the moisture you can't see.
This is so important to understand. Water is sneaky. It wicks up inside your drywall like a sponge. It soaks deep into the wood studs of your home, and it gets trapped under your flooring. If you don't get that hidden moisture out, you're setting yourself up for structural rot and nasty mold colonies long after you thought the problem was over. So how do you fight an invisible enemy? With some seriously cool gear. They'll use these huge truck-mounted pumps to pull out gallons and gallons of water fast. But then comes the high-tech stuff. They use thermal imaging cameras and digital moisture meters to literally see the water hidden inside your walls. And those giant fans and dehumidifiers you see, they're not just regular fans. They're industrial-strength machines that create airflow dynamics to pull moisture right out of the building materials themselves.
Now, you have to be patient here, because this is not an overnight fix. Proper scientific drawing is a process. It usually takes anywhere from 3 to 7 days. The technicians will come back every single day, sometimes twice a day, to take readings and adjust the equipment until all the affected materials in your home have hit the official dry standard. Once everything is verifiably dry, and I mean proven with meters, not just by touch, the emergency mitigation phase is over. Now, it's time to shift gears into rebuilding and, getting your life back to normal.
The magic phrase you'll always hear in the industry is pre-loss condition. And all that means is that the goal is to carefully and expertly rebuild so that it looks like the water damage never, ever happened.
And this is a really comprehensive process. It starts with carefully removing any materials that just couldn't be saved, and then treating surfaces to prevent any future mold growth. Then comes the reconstruction. The drywall, the flooring, the paint, the baseboards, it all culminates in a final walkthrough to make sure you are 100% happy with how everything looks. And here's something that can be a huge sigh of relief for homeowners. The pros handle the insurance headache. They literally speak the same language as the adjusters. They use the exact same estimating software, and they provide all that crazy detailed documentation needed to get your claim processed and approved as quickly and smoothly as possible.
So, if you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Acting quickly saves you money and stress. Every single minute you wait, the damage spreads, the cost to fix it goes up, and the risk of long-term problems like mold just gets higher and higher. Speed is your absolute best friend.
And I'll leave you with one final thought. Once your home is fixed and beautiful again, the crisis is over. But the knowledge you've gained from going through it, that's permanent. So the real question is, are you better prepared to act decisively if, knock on wood, it ever happens again? Because knowing what to do and why you're doing it is the best protection you can have.